Jordan Rose, thank you so much for joining me and a huge welcome to Thrive Solo. I'm really, really happy and grateful to have you here. Thank you for your time. Now, before we get into our conversation, can you just tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do if they don't already know?
Of course. So my name is Jordan Rose, obviously, and I am a travel and fashion content creator. I do Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I've been doing that for about 11 years. And yeah, that's my main job, but I also do a lot of other things, a lot of side projects, if you will. So yeah, that's a little bit, that's who I am.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for the intro. Now, our listeners will know because I said it in the introduction that you are in a relationship, but we're going to come at this conversation a little bit later from a different perspective today of somebody who is in a relationship. But before we get into all of that, can you just start by telling me a little bit about how you became a lifestyle and fashion blogger? What was the story to where you are now?
Yeah, so I started, like I said, about 11 years ago, and I was at university at the time. And I remember I was just scrolling through the internet, as one does, and I came across the Cosmo Blog Awards at the time, and it was like the results, the winners. And I was like, oh, never heard of a blog, not well, obviously I've heard of a blog, but never in this sort of context. And I was like, oh, I wonder what this is about. So I clicked through, looked at the winners, and I came across a girl called Rosie Londoner. So she was the Londoner. She doesn't do it as much anymore, but she was like a really big blogger back in the day. Was scrolling through her blog and I was like, wow, this girl has an amazing life. Like she's doing all this really cool stuff and she's taking pictures and writing. And those were two things that I was really passionate about anyway. I loved writing, loved taking photos. And I was like, I could do this. Yeah. And then I found out like people do it as a job and I was like, awesome. Like I never really knew what I wanted to do. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna start it, give it a go. And then it just sort of went from there. And I've just never given up, which is unusual for me because I'm a chronic like new hobby starter, but this is the one thing that I kept going with all those years. And yeah, now it's my full-time job, which is absolutely incredible.
It's absolutely amazing. So tell me what when you say like you started cold, like you started from nothing. So what did you start creating at that point? Like what kind of posts and stuff were you doing and what platforms were you on at that point?
So my main thing was the blog. So that was kind of like the big thing back then. I sadly don't think blogs are as popular anymore, which is a real shame because I still love them. But
Yeah.
yeah, at the time, like blogging was like a huge thing. And all those posts are still up on hellomissjordan.com. So if you want to see some very cringe looking outfits, they are there. So yeah, that was my main platform. I did have Instagram, but I didn't really use it. And then Twitter was also massive alongside sort of your blog. So a lot of
Yeah.
people would promote their blogs via Twitter, and there used to be like blog chats, and it was a really huge community, which was really nice. So yeah, that was sort of the main thing I did. I would write about food, travel, fashion, pretty beauty, pretty much anything that sort of came up in my life. I was at uni at the time, so I was broke as hell and was just like, do you know what? I'm just going to write about things that are coming into my life at this time. And yeah, that was how I sort of started.
It's amazing. Now, one thing I'd love to ask you about visibility, because you have to be brave to do what you do. Like, not everyone has the courage to show up in the way that you do regularly and just put yourself out there. And I talk a lot about how worrying about what other people think holds so many of us back in life. It held me back for literally decades. So I'm really interested to know from your perspective, how did you feel about, because as your blog got bigger and then you sort of expanded out, how did you feel about being visible? What was that like?
I feel like it's been sort of a roller coaster. It's been sort of up and down. And I feel like my whole life I've kind of been a bit of a chronic attention seeker. So I'm like, as it was getting bigger, I was like, yes, people are looking, they're like reading my stuff, they're liking it, brilliant. So that was like the up and up. I was like, yes, I'm loving this. But at the same time, you get like, obviously, the bigger you grow, the more people are going to appear, and some people aren't going to like you.
Yeah.
Um, it's just the way of life. And I have had over the years some people be quite mean and unkind to me. And so, like, there was probably a point, I'd say, around 2020 during the first lockdown
Mm.
where it really started to affect me. And I was having like really bad mental health problems at the time.
Oh, love.
I suffered from, and I still do now, I suffer from anxiety and depression. I'm thankfully medicated and pretty stable now. But at the time, yeah, around 2020, it was really, really bad. And I was getting sort of a lot of nasty comments, nasty messages. And it was a struggle at that time. And then I remember having sort of a full mental breakdown. And I was like,
Really?
I can't do this anymore. Like, I literally, it's sort of like, I always compare it to when you get comments like this, it's like reading all of the negative thoughts you've ever had about yourself from your depression. They're kind of like realized and reaffirmed by someone you've never even met. So it was like having someone go, yeah, you're right. You're correct. You are a horrible person. You're this, and this. And, you should just leave. I don't know. I was not feeling good. So at that time, I was like, yeah, this is not good. So I started therapy and went on medication maybe a year after that because I was putting it off. I was quite scared to go on medication.
Right.
But then over time, I feel like it's a combination of the medication, the therapy, and then just getting older.
Yeah.
I literally do not give a shit what anyone thinks of me anymore. I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care if you don't like my content. I don't care if you think I'm cringe or like lame. It doesn't affect me anymore, which is
Yeah.
so freeing. But yeah, it was definitely a journey from
Yeah.
sort of a up and down experience, and then getting to the place where I am now, where I feel very grateful that I'm kind of just happy and I don't care if someone doesn't like me. That phrase that people use where it's like, I've never wanted to trade places with someone who disliked me. That's very, very much like what I think about when I see someone being nasty.
And do you know what? Bloody good for you. Because actually, you've shown those people because you've now become so big. You've got such a big following. You are successful. You have created an incredible life for yourself because you've managed to block out the noise. And I'm so sorry for everything that you went through. That must have been incredibly hard. I'm really glad to hear that you've got it all sorted. You're feeling so much better. You've got it under control. I mean, one thing I'd love to hear your take on is I talk a lot about mindset. I think so much of success and really just living a good life is to do with the way that we are thinking. And I think people don't realize necessarily how incredibly important mindset is. And on my journey of just having a podcast for 3.5 years, like I've had to really work on my mindset and get to a place where I can kind of let things go and, just deal with things like haters and deal with, you use the word cringe, but this is what I love about you is that, and you say you just don't give a shit if somebody thinks you're cringe, if somebody thinks you're whatever. It doesn't matter. You just keep on going. And those are the people who become successful. They are the ones who just continue, they keep going, they don't give up. It's like you have to put aside your ego, don't you? You have to lay your ego down and go, I feel like a real dick doing this post. I know some of my old school friends are going to be cringing, but fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. What would you say about that?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Like, I mean, I look back at things that I posted like 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm like, oh, no, I wouldn't post that now. But at the time, people were enjoying it, and I
Yeah.
don't regret anything that I've ever posted. It's just, it's me, and it was me during that time. Like, I remember during lockdown, I went through a phase where I just really did really thick, dark eyebrows, and I don't know why. Like, I look back and I'm like, why did I do my eyebrows? And it is what it is. It's part of the journey. And
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, mindset is so important. I remember my therapist said to me that the version of you that people see isn't the real you. It's almost like a clone of you that they've imagined in their heads. So anything they think of that clone is not really what they think of you. And I remember her saying that and being like, yeah, that makes like so much sense
Yeah.
because no one really knows who you are online. Like,
Yeah.
people might think I'm like boring or stupid or whatever, but it's like, well, you don't know me as a person. You see 5 minutes maximum per day of my whole life.
Yeah.
And yeah, it boggles the mind that people think that they can know someone that deeply from just that very little amount that you give them. But
Totally. And also, The thing about you is that you are out there on the field playing the game. All of these people are sitting on the sidelines. They're sitting in the stands watching you, criticizing, or the ones that are. I mean, I know there are many who love you, but the kind of haters or whatever you want to call them, the trolls, they are not out there on the field. It's something I've talked about before on the podcast, this idea of, people that criticize are rarely or never the ones who are actually in the fucking game, doing the thing, having the courage to show up again and again and again. Now, one thing I'd love to ask you about is actual content creation. I think people look at influencers like you and feel like, oh, yeah, well, it's really easy for her. And look at her kind of here and there and in, Paris and blah and wherever and kind of having a lovely time. But actually, I don't think people realize how bloody hard work content creation can actually be. And I know from my own perspective how much incredibly hard work it is. From your perspective as an influencer, does that resonate with you? It's a lot of work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always say like it's not the hardest job in the world. I sometimes see like influencers be like, yeah, this is the hardest job in the world. I was like, girl, I've been a waitress. Like, that is the hardest job in the world. But it is way harder than people give it credit for, 100%. I
Definitely.
feel like the term influencer has kind of this stigma around it now.
Yeah.
And even my mum says it, like she'll tell her friends, like, oh, what does your daughter do? And she's like, oh, she's an influencer. And she says she just sees people's eyes glaze over. They kind of assume immediately that you're just some idiot who's like posting selfies and hasn't bothered working a day in their life. And it's a real shame because there is so much more to it. And especially for me as well, I'm like a one woman team. I don't have a team behind me, I don't have management. Everything I produce is pretty much done by me. And so when I look at it, I'm basically a model, a social media marketer, I'm a photographer, a videographer, I'm a hair and makeup artist, I'm an accountant, I do all my own emails. Literally, it's an endless list of
Yeah. You
things.
wear 5,000 hats every day.
Exactly. And when you think about, say, a brand paying a marketing agency for an advert, they would spend thousands, tens of thousands on models, hair and makeup artists, photographers. And with an influencer, they basically take all of that and just roll it into one person. And I think that's the reason as well why the influencer industry has grown so much, is because these brands have realized we don't need to like pay necessarily all the time for a huge shoot campaign where we've got like 10 different people. If we can just get this one girl who does everything and we can pay her like a tenth of the rate that we would be doing, and still getting also that amazing reach that you can get from an audience.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like the industry gets like such a bad rap from a very like a huge minority of people who are just, I mean, there's like bad eggs in any industry, isn't there?
Yeah.
You get bad eggs, you get bad lawyers, you get bad doctors, but there are so many people doing incredible, incredible work in the
Yeah.
influencers industry who are doing things for body positivity, for charity, for like mental health. There's so many amazing people. And I feel like they always get overshadowed really sadly by the media, who are going to focus on one person who did something kind of stupid and controversial. And then everyone just assumes, oh, influencers are like the scum of the earth who don't deserve money and haven't got real jobs. And it's such a shame for me because, yeah, I just think it's so overlooked how much of a job it is and all the good things that it brings to the internet and to society.
Absolutely. I also think that there's a lot of jealousy going on there as well, 100%, because I think there's a lot of people looking at what the likes of you are doing. And quite often when you're feeling insecure in yourself, people sometimes lash out at other people. And I think that's what people do when it comes to influencers, content creators. They're actually jealous. But again, it comes back to being on the field or being on the stands. You know, people are looking at you and thinking, ultimately, they're thinking, God, I wish I had the guts to get out there and do that. And also, I think because people like you are, you know, you're just like anyone else. Do you know what I mean? And I mean that as a compliment. And what I'm saying is you're not kind of, there's nothing necessarily different about you or other influences. It's just that the difference is that you've got out there and you've actually made it fricking happen. And that really triggers people. Speaking of going back to the sort of content creation side of it and the work involved, What does a day look like in your life? What is your kind of average day? I mean, one thing I'll just say to the listeners is that we're recording this on a Saturday morning. Now, not everybody would have said yes to me on a Saturday morning. So here you are working away, because this is essentially work, right? Appearing on a podcast on a Saturday morning. It never stops. It's like 7 days a week. What does a day look like in your life? I'm really interested to know.
Yeah, honestly, every day is so different, which is quite fun as well because you never know what you're going to get. I would say like an average day at home. So if we take out things like events, because sometimes you'll have a day of events and you'll be in London or somewhere else and networking, shooting content that way. If I'm at home, it's usually things like really dull admin. So laptop stuff. You're going to be like replying to emails. I'll probably shoot outfit content at home, chasing invoices, very exciting. Securing new contracts, pitching to new brands, because obviously if you're self-employed, you're not necessarily always getting brands in your inbox being like, we want to give you lots of money. Sometimes you have to reach out and be like, give me lots of money. So it's like very much the most boring thing you can imagine is pretty much just sitting in front of a laptop in my pajamas and just doing that. And then occasionally I will dress up like I'm going out somewhere and shoot all the outfits and then take it all off instantly. So yeah, a day at home is pretty much that, just shooting content in the house if I can. And then if I need to do like something that's sort of more outside shooting for a brand or something, then I'll probably do that like on a day when I have an event. So I'll go into London and do that part and then shoot content around the event, because I live in the middle of nowhere and
You're in Kent, right?
in Kent, yeah, literally in the middle of a field. No one knows the town. Literally, when I tell people, they're like, "No, never heard of it." So it doesn't always lend itself to like outside content. It's not like the most aesthetically pleasing if you don't want countryside. Some people want like more of a city vibe. So I'll shoot in London. So yeah, every day is very different. Every week is different. And I really love that because it just kind of keeps me on my toes and keeps me engaged and doing lots of things. And you have
Yeah.
to be very disciplined with it as well. Like you have to get up, you have to go and do the thing. You got to do the thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to sit around, especially when I don't have any other job other than like, I do some freelance social media for clients as well. So sometimes I'll be doing that. But like, other than those things where like I'm specifically working for someone else and I have like a deadline, then it's like a deadline you have to make and you have to force yourself to get in there and do the
Yeah.
work.
Because ultimately you have to hold you accountable, because this is your business. And like you say, it's just you. Can I ask one thing actually about your photos and stuff? Like, you take beautiful photos and your Instagram is really beautiful. Like, if you scroll through your grid, it all looks really beautiful. Some of the pictures are absolutely stunning. So when you do a shoot, like for example, I was looking at your Instagram and I saw you had some pictures with Big Ben in the background. You were on the other side of the river, right? And also there were some beautiful pictures of you in a field of poppies and stuff, like just really, really gorgeous pictures. Do you have somebody with you, or do you have your own camera set up on like a tripod and sort of essentially doing selfies?
So it depends, again, it depends on the scenario. Sometimes I'll shoot with a tripod. It's always me like setting up settings on a camera. I don't like hire anyone. I don't have like a specific photographer. I always say like I am the photographer, but I'll have, usually if I'm in London, mainly because of I don't want someone snatching my camera off a tripod on the, I don't quite trust the general public enough to
Yeah.
leave a £3,500 camera just 10 feet away from me.
Yes. Fair point.
So in those scenarios, I'll usually have like a friend or a family member or my partner will be really kind and they'll help me. And I usually set up the settings. I'll set up the shot and be like, this is what I want. Just press the shutter and we'll go. So yeah, it's like a mix of the two. But if I'm in London, it's usually I'll have someone with me.
Yeah, fabulous. Jordan, thank you for telling us all about this. I find it absolutely fascinating. And again, you know what? Seriously, I take my hat off to you. I have real respect for you because you really just have made shit happen. And, you've become really successful off your own back. And that is no mean feat. So bloody good on you. Now, moving on to the topic of this podcast. Again, we said at the beginning, you are in a relationship. Now, I am always quite surprised that my podcast gets quite a bit of attention actually from people who aren't actually single. And I know of quite a few listeners who whilst they're in relationships, they seem to resonate with my content. Now, you have a boyfriend, but you read my book, Shiny Happy Singles. Thank you, by the way. And you enjoyed it. And so, and this is how come I got you on the podcast. You were so kind to post about it on your stories. So tell me, what was it about the book that resonated with you as a woman in a relationship?
I honestly loved it. It was so good. And I
Thank
literally was
you.
saying, oh, I wish it had been around when I was single,
Oh my
because it
God.
would have been like such like a, oh my God, yes, I get it, like 100%. But
Thank
guess
you.
as a woman in a relationship, I loved it anyway, because I feel like there's this weird, like, again, we've got this weird stigma of women who are choosing not to be in a relationship. And I just think the freedom and the amazing opportunities it allows to be single is just incredible. And I've always said, my partner now, he's absolutely incredible. But if anything happened between us at all, I probably wouldn't date again. I probably would choose to be single. From the experience of dating last time, I am not bothered about entering that scene ever again. I've got an incredible relationship. I am so, so happy. And I just feel like, if anything happened, even if it was something that, God forbid, someone cheated, hopefully never happens. But even if that happened, I would just be like, I'm good. I'm good now. I've had the relationships. I've had a really great time. But I just think, yeah, being single is so freeing. And I would just be so happy with that. And then reading about it in your book as well, it just reaffirmed that to me. I was like, these women are having the time of their lives. And I'm so happy for them, because that is how it should be.
Yeah.
Just do you, girl. And if you're happy, that is fantastic. And I love it. I just think it's fantastic.
It's so interesting hearing someone say that who is in a relationship. And actually, let me ask you, right? So you're 32. Am I right in saying you're 30, 32, 33?
31 or 32?
You sound
31.
like me. I
I'm 31, I think.
31. Sorry, sorry.
31.
So you're a lot younger than me. And actually, I mean, I'm 49. What is hilarious is that I was having I know I was having my nails done. This was a few months ago. And I was talking to the lovely woman who was doing my nails, and she asked me how old I was, and I said 39. And then literally I was like, no, 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 I'm not. I'm 49. It was a genuine mistake. Anyway, so you are obviously a lot younger than me. I'd love to hear from you as somebody who's from a different generation to me. How do you think single women are seen within your generation? Because, as I say, I'm 49. There is still so much stigma. I mean, I wrote about it in the book, as you know. There is still so much stigma around single women. I think what I'm trying to find out from you is, do you think that people are starting to be a bit more open-minded about single women? What is your take on that as a 31-year-old?
Yeah, I think that it is definitely becoming more open-minded. I know a lot of women who are single and they're absolutely loving life. I think there is always going to be that very small subset of mostly like men who are very unfortunately indoctrinated into this thinking like there's something wrong with you, you've been left on the shelf. And it's like, no, it's not the case at all. But I definitely think it's becoming more I hate the word acceptable, but do you know what I mean, like in the
Yeah,
eye of the public, like people being like, oh, do you know what, whatever. And I wonder if as well if this is more because on the internet we're getting a lot more people being very real and very open. There's a lot of like subreddits obviously about people who are in relationships or have children who are very openly talking about the negative downsides
yeah.
of these situations. And I feel like a lot of people are seeing that and being like, well, do you know what? It's not actually that big of a deal if I'm not in a relationship. Yeah, it's very hard to say. I remember when I was single, I mean, I always really, really wanted to be in a relationship personally. I feel like I love it. I love being I just like being a relationship girly. But at the same time, it was some of the most fun I've ever had being single. So yeah, it's hard to say. I feel like it's definitely becoming more like normal.
Kind of normal.
Yeah, I feel like it
Yeah.
definitely is. But I still feel like there's a long way to go.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people who replied to my stories actually about your book were like, oh, I really need to read this because I'm dating at the moment and I'm feeling really, really sad about being single. And I'm like, no, no, you got to read this book because it will literally like
Oh,
change your mindset on it, because
bless you. Thank you.
it's definitely like you're fighting the good fight here.
Oh, thanks, Love. I really appreciate that. Now, as a woman in a relationship, what are your thoughts on how, as a society, we put romantic love at the center of everything? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree on that. It's really funny. I was engaged prior to my current partner, so I ended that engagement, and that was a very public relationship. So I put a lot of it online, and the engagement, the wedding planning. I was always just putting up stuff about our relationship, being like, "Oh my god, we're so happy," but under the surface, we were not happy at all. And so, what after that happened, I said, "I'm never going to post my relationship online again." Because I feel like when you go on like TikTok and you're scrolling and you see these just beautiful videos and photos of people in these absolutely flawless relationships, and then everyone's like, this is it, this is what I need, this is the peak. And I feel like that's kind of not sad, but like I feel like it's not what we should be aiming for, because for one thing, again, you don't know the real scenario behind these people's lives. You're seeing a beautifully staged like snapshot of their life. And my partner and I have quite a lot of beautiful photos I've never posted, but I just like to have them for me. And it's just you're not always seeing the absolute complete circle of a relationship when you see these
Yeah.
people online. But if you go in the comments, everyone's like, oh, you can see me in the background, like on the motorway or something, because they're like, this is all I want. This is all I want is this perfect relationship. And it's no relationship is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And I would love if we just had that, but like for people doing their own thing, like
Yeah.
starting businesses, living their best lives. That should be one of the goals, you know what I mean? That should be like what we're all striving for, is being the best versions of ourselves and not necessarily being the best versions of ourselves with another person.
Oh my
Um,
God, 100%.
but yeah, I felt I just yeah, I wish it was more and maybe a little bit more spread it. Maybe it's just my For You page coming for me. But like, yeah, literally, I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh my god, yeah. Even I'm in a happy relationship. I'm like, Jesus, like every time I go on here, I'm seeing some people being flouncing around, being perfect, and it's like with their partner, it's just like, oh my god, like everyone chill out. There's a lot more. There's a lot more to life than just having a partner.
Absolutely. You will know that I couldn't agree more with what you say here. And actually, this leads on nicely to something I was going to ask you about anyway, which is that, you know, our society tends to measure our success on whether or not we're married with kids, which is something that drives me insane. As a woman in a relationship, like what does success mean to you? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're a successful woman who's got a lot going on outside of her relationship. And I mean, this sort of speaks to what you've just been talking about, really. But is it fair to say that our society does tend to measure success on our relationship status? And actually, one thing I think I mentioned this in the book, I've certainly mentioned this on the podcast, is that when you're a single woman, it's almost like it doesn't matter how much you are rocking life. It doesn't matter what you're doing that is amazing. There is still this kind of undermining of whatever it is because you're not married and because you haven't had babies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely agree with that. It's like it's so strange, isn't it? I feel like that definitely happens, which is such a shame. I feel like there's always this kind of weird, oh, that's nice. But so when are you dating? Like, are you seeing
Exactly.
someone? Like, are you having kids? Like, when are you getting married? It's like, well, I've got lots of other stuff happening. Well, what about this other stuff that I'm doing? Look at this other things I'm happening. It's very exciting.
Exactly.
It's very strange. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's just generations and generations of this kind of ingrained opinion of, I mean, history is literally like, I mean, we are very much now sort of changing the way that women can live their lives. Even if you look back to the 50s, which was not that long ago,
No.
the way that women were treated, the way that they could do things and work and be a career woman was always a bit like, well, that's a bit strange. Like, what's she being
Yeah.
like that? So I feel like there's still that kind of overlap still in society, and it's
Yeah.
taking a while for people to just maybe rewire their mindset as to what success means. And for me, success is never really based on a relationship at all. I feel like I've never wanted a partner to sort of complete me. I always said if I found a partner, it would be someone who enhances my life and makes it better, not someone who's sort of filling a hole. And when I was single, I was very much focused on doing everything that I wanted to do. And I'm such a perfectionist, and like my idea of success, I always said I don't think I'll ever feel like I'm successful because I always want more. There's always something I'm striving for. So I never really reached the peak of, yeah, I'm a successful girl, even if I'd done lots of amazing things. So I objectively am, but inside me, I'm like, oh no, there's still more I need to do and more I need to achieve. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like we still have a long way to go, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
getting there though. We're getting there. It's
Well,
just
and actually, do you know what is great is to have a conversation like this with somebody like you, somebody who is that much younger, who is in a relationship, but you are set, like when I saw that you posted about Shiny Happy Singles on your stories, I was like, my God, that's so awesome. Because when young women particularly hear things like that from somebody like you, they're really going to sit up and listen. And it's having conversations like this that is going to get this message out into the world. And it's not, I'm sure I say this in the book, and you'll probably know this about me already, but I'm not saying don't get into a relationship. I'm not anti-relationships. I'm not anti-men, but all I'm saying is actually the most important relationship that we will ever have is the one that we have with ourselves. And actually, I want to encourage single women to focus on themselves rather than making their priority the relationship, not least because a relationship can only feed you up to a point. But actually, the true sense of satisfaction and contentment and all the rest of it really does come from within us. What are your thoughts on that, Jordan?
honestly, you're literally speaking my mind. When I was single, I used to get asked all the time, do you have any advice? Do you have any advice for dating? And I'd always say, literally, the most important thing to do is to nurture yourself. And I spent years in bad, crappy relationships. I had some really, really horrible experiences. And when I look back, I had no self esteem and I did not have the courage in myself to leave. And that was such an issue for me for so many years. And then it took all that time for me to be like, when I was finally dating last time in my little single era, I was like, I now know what I want and what I deserve. And the most important thing to me is having the best time ever now that I'm single. I didn't sort of wait around for anyone to sort of take me on holiday or go for dinner or go on dates. I would take myself on dates and I would go on holiday by myself. And I always say this to people, I'm like, it is so important that you have the best version of you before you even think about dating anyone else, because dating is like a minefield. There is a lot of people who, in my opinion, should not be dating. They are not ready for it. They need to look in the mirror and they need to work on themselves first. And
Yeah.
a lot of, I'd say the majority of people who I've spoken to who have had struggles with dating or relationship issues, it's always because one or the other has not done the work on themselves first. And
Mm.
I know this is always something that people don't really want to hear because they're like, I've done the work, I've done the work. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you've done the work, but like, that's great. Like you need to like have that base of you being so happy with yourself. And both me and my partner have had this, which I think is one of the testaments to our relationship and why it works so well. Is he was single before he met me for 6 years,
Right.
and he was so happy being single that he literally was like, I do not want a relationship at all. He was like, I'm happy being single for the rest of my life. And I was in that point after ending my engagement, I was like, I'm really happy being single. I'm having a great time. I feel fully confident and I look great and I'm awesome. And if I find someone, like I said, it's got to be someone who adds to my life, isn't
Yeah.
like filling a gap. And we both, for each other, I feel, didn't feel like a gap for each other. We just
Mm.
made each other's lives even better.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it is 100% about working on yourself and living the life you want to live without a person and feeling like you need another person there. to even do anything with. It's like, you don't need them. You are great and you could do it all by yourself and
Yeah.
with friends.
Yeah, 100%. I love what you said there. It sounds like your boyfriend is quite an evolved kind of guy. And dare I say, I think that women tend to have done the work on themselves more than guys, in my experience. Not to say that I don't know lots of lovely, lovely guys who are absolutely awake and evolved. But I think partly why there are more and more single women, because the numbers of single women are massively on the rise. And I think it's partly because women are no longer willing to settle for somebody who, like you've just said, who doesn't add value to their lives. It's like, there was a time when women had to be in a relationship. They needed it because they couldn't even get a freaking credit card. They couldn't get anywhere to live, blah, blah, blah. But these days, women don't actually need men, and they're not willing to, or many of them are no longer willing to settle for someone who isn't good enough. And this is something I speak about all the time on the podcast. It's like, you know please do not settle for somebody just for the sake of being in a relationship, because I fully believe that it is never better to be in the wrong relationship than it is to be single. It's always better to be single.
Yes. Oh my God. 100% agree. Literally, this is always my thing as well. I was actually writing a non-fiction book for a little bit, and then it's kind of off the rail, but it was called Never Settle. And it was
Oh,
about my dating
really?
experience. Yeah. And I haven't done it. Like, so it's not out. But yeah, literally, I always say it's like, I would rather be single than with the wrong person. And this is the problem I had with my last relationship where I was engaged, is that I look back and I was settling because I
Mm.
thought he was lovely. I was like, he's so nice and he will never cheat on me. Fantastic. What else could a girl want? What else could I need? Like, I have no reason to break up with him because he's so nice. But I was settling. We were not right for each other. We did not have the same outlook on life. We didn't have the same values. And when I ended, I was like, yeah, I'm never ever settling. I would rather be alone for the rest of my life. And going back to sort of what you said about men being less likely to sort of do the work, I completely agree with that. My partner is, even he admits, like when he was younger, he had so many emotional problems, like the way he behaved in previous relationships was not ideal. And he has spent a long, long time sort of reevaluating how he sees relationships. And he's fantastic. He's so emotionally mature. He's incredible at communication. And he's literally everything that I could ask for. Like I said, I was never going to settle, and I didn't. He is brilliant. But I do find it really, really sad when men just, I feel like they don't feel like they can be as emotional as they want to be. Like, I
Mm.
dated so many different guys, and the last guy I dated before my current partner, I remember him saying that he was like, oh, girls hate when guys show their emotions. And I was like, no, they don't. I was like, I actually love when my boyfriend cries. I'm literally like, do it, cry for me. And he's like, do it. But this last guy was like, no, they hate it. They always say they like it, but they don't. And I'm like, no, no, I'm literally sitting here telling you that I like a guy who's in touch with his emotions. He would not listen to me at all. And he was always keeping everything inside, like all his trauma and all his problems. And I was just like, dude, just let it out. It's cool. It's fine. And I feel like these poor men, they go on the internet and they see all the likes of Andrew
I
Tate
was
and all
just going to ask. Yep.
these
Oh,
non-podcast bros who are like preaching all this bullshit, and they think that's what women want, that's how they have to be, and it's not how they have to be. What they need to do is look inside and be like, what do I need to do to become well adjusted, emotionally mature, a good communicator? And I just find it really, really sad, to be honest, because they've seen how like sort of manipulated these men have become. And yeah, like you said, there's a huge rise in women who are now single because there aren't a whole lot of men who are emotionally mature enough for a relationship.
yeah.
And even seeing my friends, some of the relationships they've been in, the way these men treat them is horrendous. And I actually said to one of them, because they broke up finally, thankfully, but I saw one of them recently and I said, have you thought about therapy? Because he was like, oh, I love it when it's toxic and I love the drama. And I'm like, have you thought about talking to someone? Because it's not okay. Like, you need to look at yourself and be like,
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, I feel it's a real shame. I wish that more
Yeah.
men felt comfortable enough to open up more and talk to someone and yeah, evolve a bit and just,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's really interesting to talk to you about this actually and get your thoughts on this because I have a membership called Thrive Solo for single women, and we've had conversations inside the membership about how men are in they're in not in a great way at the moment. They're struggling. They're kind of in trouble. And I was literally going to say before you mentioned the Andrew Tate thing, what is so dangerous is when guys are struggling and they're at home and they're scrolling on their phones, and of course, if they spend more than 2 seconds on a video on a reel by someone like Andrew Tate, then they're just going to get fed more and more and more of that into their feed. And then that's going to become their world. And that's going to be what they're basing the way that they perceive the world and women based on what they're being fed. It's so fucked up. So do you think men are struggling at the moment?
Yeah, I definitely do. And like I said, I think it's a real shame because, yeah, like you said, they're going on their phones. This was it. And I feel like a lot of it's based on, I mean, yeah, women aren't perfect. Women cheat. Women do horrible things all the time. It is 100% a two-way street. And they will have one experience with a woman, which is terrible. And I feel like men don't have anywhere to sort of let go of that emotion. They don't talk to anyone necessarily. They don't always have a close friend who they feel that
Yeah.
they can be emotional with. Like again, my boyfriend, he has a really lovely group of three friends and they always tell each other they love each other. They're always happy
Oh.
to talk about their emotions. And I think that's so needed
And healthy.
in healthy in any with anyone. If you're a woman or a man, like you need someone who you can open up to and be like, I'm struggling with this. I feel really shit today. I just want to talk to you about it. I just need to get over this experience. But yeah, instead they bottle it all up inside because they feel like that's what they need to do as a man. They got to be manly and can't show their emotions and they've just got to like power through it. And instead they
Yeah.
just go on their phone, like I said, scroll through, and then they see Andrew Tate saying something like, "Oh," and they're like, yeah, he's right because that's my one experience that I've had with a woman has been exactly like what he said. So he must be right. Instead of being like, wait a second, maybe it was just one experience with a woman and there's lots of lovely people out there who will love me for who I am and
Yeah.
have like a great relationship with. um yeah, it's such a shame. And I love men. I think they are so great. Like obviously I'm in a relationship with one, and I just wish that there was more online to promote like this healthy masculinity. I
Yeah.
remember me and my partner went to see a musical called Choir of Man, which is on in London's West End, and it's like a really short musical. It's set in like a pub, and it's basically like 10 guys and they sing songs and they play instruments and stuff. But the underlying core message is about healthy masculinity. And my partner cried during the show
Oh
because
wow.
he was like, I've never seen something that resonates so much with what it's like to be a man. And it was
Wow.
amazing. I was like, every man needs to go and watch this show because it is literally like, this is what they need to see. This
Wow.
is how they should like get out their emotions. Like, this is it. This is it. I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
send
So
all the
it's
men on a field trip.
so it's called Choir of Man.
Fire of Man. Yeah,
I
it's
want
such a good show.
I wonder how long it's on in the West End for. What theatre is it on at?
So it's in, oh my god, what's it called? It's the one, it's right next to Leicester Square Station.
Right.
It's like a one act show, so it's like an hour and
Okay.
a half. There's a pub on the stage as well, so you can like go up on the stage and drink with the
Oh
cast.
wow.
It's a really good show. I'm like promoting this show because I feel like it's underrated gem and everyone should see it. But especially men, men should go and see this show because yeah, it. My boyfriend was like, I've never been felt more seen as a man until I saw this show. So
Wow, it's making me think because I have several nephews, right? So my sister has 4 kids, 3 of whom are boys. My brother has a baby who's not even a year yet. But my nephews from my sister, she's got triplets, 2 boys and a girl, and then an older nephew. And my eldest nephew is 22, and the triplets are about to turn 19. And it sounds like the kind of show that it sounds like the kind of show that I'd love them to go and see. I'm seeing my sister and one of my nephews today, so I will definitely mention it to them. Choir of Men, it sounds fabulous. Can I just ask one more question on this topic? The issues that we're talking about with guys at the moment, did you see that reflected in your dating life before you got into your relationship? And if so, how was that reflected in the dates that you went on, the guys that you were involved with?
Yeah, 100% did see it. I feel like I was very lucky with the actual dates themselves. I'm quite good at, I had a really good filtering system. So I wouldn't necessarily always get to a date with someone and have a bad time because it was like, well, I'd kind of got rid of them. But on the apps, a lot of men would come out and have like a real chip on their shoulder about certain things. And you'd be like, dude, okay, like I didn't say anything, like calm down. You can immediately tell when someone's got that kind of mindset where they're expecting a woman to be a certain way, probably based on some sort of random article they've read or podcast they've listened to. And yeah, like I said about that guy I was dating before my current partner, where he was like, I'm not going to show emotions. And he was a big fan of Jordan Peterson, like
Okay.
loved Jordan Peterson. And he was like, yeah, he knows everything, like blah, blah, blah. And he was very much like not showing emotions. He was a really lovely guy, but I feel like even he was being held back by these preconceptions about what he needed to do to be a man. And it was like, dude, you don't need to be doing all this. Just be yourself. Be cool. You can cry. I don't care. Like let's have a cry sesh together. But yeah, the number of times I was on apps and stuff and had like an encounter with someone and they would just switch and you'd be like, dude, what the heck? Why are you being like this? It's
Wow.
fine. So like and as an example, I would only do dinner dates as first dates. I don't like drinking on first dates because I don't like it clouding any kind of judgment of
Yeah.
what's going on. I'd only do dinner dates. I would never expect anyone to pay for a dinner date, but I would always say like, if they were like, "Oh, do you want to go for a drink?" I'd be like, "I'd rather get to know someone over dinner if that's all right." And it would be lovely if the man organised the dinner. I didn't say that, but you know what I mean. It's nice if the
Yeah.
man organises a date and stuff. And you would always know what kind of man they were because they'd be like, "Okay, sure," or they would like lose it and they'd be like, "Oh, so you're like that, are you?
Oh
Like you're a
God.
gold digger? Oh, so you just want a guy to just give you free food?" And I'm like, "Dude, I didn't say that. I didn't say you had to pay. I just said we should go for dinner." And so that was why I always used it as well, because not only was it like I do prefer to go to dinner, but it was a brilliant filtering system because so
Right.
many men would take it as some sort of personal attack, like I'm trying to use them to get dinner. And it's like, mate, I can pay for my own dinner. It's all good. I just like food. So yeah, definitely saw little signs of it.
That's so
Yeah,
interesting. And also, it reminds me of something I've heard from like I've never done online dating, which you probably don't know, but I've literally never, I mean, I've had many boyfriends over the years. I've been single for nearly 8 years now, but previous to that, I've had multiple boyfriends since I was literally like a teenager. But I've never, in the years of being single, I've never done online dating. It just wasn't my thing. And I don't think I ever will. But I've heard from some friends who I've actually met through the podcast who have been dating a guy. And just like you said, things have been seemingly okay. And then suddenly one thing's happened and they've just switched, like had a complete like personality change over one seemingly small thing. But I think it speaks to how incredibly insecure men are feeling at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Which is really, really sad. Now, Jordan, I'm really conscious of your time, particularly because it's Saturday morning. I have just loved talking to you. Really, it's been so fabulous to have you on, somebody so much younger than me with a very different perspective and somebody who's in a relationship. Can I ask you just a couple more questions before we wrap up?
absolutely. I'm having a great time. Go on,
Oh,
fire.
thanks, love. Okay, so the first one is, how important is it to you to retain your independence within your relationship? And this, I interviewed somebody the other day who said something that I hadn't really thought about before. She said she's single because most women I interview are, but she said you can thrive solo within a relationship. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So me and my partner have a really funny thing, which is we never want to live together. And a lot of people are like, what? That's so weird. Because I actually do want to get married. Like I really want to get married. And they're like, well, why would you want to get married if you're not going to live together? I'm like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like, we don't want children. And I love having my own space. He loves having his own space. And like having that time apart from each other every week is kind of just like it's almost like a really fun relationship reset, because when we see each other again, it's like, yay, I'm gonna go see my boyfriend. And I was like, why do we have to live together if we don't have to? Like, I understand obviously a lot of people want to live together for financial reasons, and it makes logical sense, if you're living with someone, you split everything. But for us, we don't need to do that. And I absolutely agree that you can still retain that level of independence while you're in a relationship. We both have our own friends, we have our own hobbies. We'll both like go out with our own sets of people every week, and then we'll also come together and spend time as a group. So 100%, I'm always been down for like having that kind of independence. Like I said, he is not my other half. He is like my like cherry on the cake rather than the other half of the cake. So
Yeah.
yes, that is massively true. Massively
It's
resonates with me.
so interesting that you say that about not wanting to live together. And I love that, because I think that really takes guts, because and it takes a certain kind of person, I think, to have basically to be willing to deal with the noise that that will undoubtedly create among your family and your friends, all of whom will probably, you know what I mean? Like, I can totally see how everyone's like, well, that's weird. What's going on with them that they don't want to live together? Whereas actually, when you explain it, it makes complete sense. And actually, I reckon that a lot of relationships, a lot of couples in relationships would be way better off, way happier, and would probably last longer and be less likely to break up if they kept that separation, if that was more normalized as well, like living apart. Do
Mm.
you know Helena Bonham Carter and Tim
Yes.
Burton, who used to, I always thought that's such a cool idea to live next to each other. So they had an adjoining door, but they had completely separate houses.
Yeah.
And I think that is fucking genius, because,
Mhm.
like you said, when you see your boyfriend, you get really excited. It's like, oh, I'm going to see my boyfriend. Whereas, there is so much, I think, to be gained from not living with a partner, actually. But if only the world would stop making people feel like it was like, well, there's something wrong. There's obviously something wrong with those two because they're not living together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And like I always find when we tell people, you either get the reaction of that's really weird, like or you get people who do live together and they're like, yeah, I get it. Yeah. Like I speak to a lot of female friends who live with their partners or their husbands, and they're like, God, do you know what? Yeah, when he goes away, I love having the house to myself. And I'm like, I get that every week because I'll just leave. I'm like, bye.
I love it. I love it. You mentioned that you guys didn't want to have kids. Have you always known that you didn't want kids?
Yeah, I always knew I didn't want them. Even when I would say even when I was a child, like literally like a little child, even then I wasn't really, I never like really wanted a baby doll or had any kind of maternal instinct. I've always been really maternal for animals, love animals, like always wanted like a pet and stuff. But yeah, with children, I've never really had that kind of desire to have them my whole life. And I'd say now that I'm turned, what am I, 31, when we can't remember. And now I'm 31. And I've definitely grown like I like children a lot more than I used to. Like in my 20s, I was like, keep them away from me. I do not want them anywhere. I don't want them near me. Now I'm a bit more like, oh no, actually, they're cool. They're cool. Like we can have like a little chat and they're quite funny. So I've definitely grown in that department, but still, I'm still like, no, I'm very much happy to never have children.
Yeah. Um, you know what? The number of people I've spoken to for this podcast, so many women say, I always knew, I just never wanted kids. And it's so interesting because, of course, I mean, you won't know this, but I had a piece in the Telegraph a few weeks ago, just after my book came out, and I literally got so much hate in the comments that they put me on the fucking front page of the print version. Thanks, haters. But literally, that is what happened. So it went out on a Tuesday online, and there were more than 1,300 comments. I haven't actually looked recently, so I don't know how many there are now. And on Facebook, the Facebook post of the Telegraph, there are now more than 6,000 comments, which is wild. In this article, I actually didn't write it. I was interviewed by a journalist at the Telegraph who then wrote a first person piece. But basically, the point is that there are so many men, may I add, largely men, who were outraged. They were vile, and the amount of kind of vitriol and rage, and that so many of them basically implied that women are here to have babies. Like, what is the point of her life? What a meaningless, pointless existence. What is so interesting about having been having all these conversations for, coming on 4 years on this podcast is that I've realized that it's actually a load of bollocks to say that women are, I mean, of course, women have children, but it is simply not true that every single woman is put on this planet to have kids. It's just not true because a significant number of them have always known they didn't want kids. Doesn't mean they're any less womanly. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. It's just obviously a large number of women just don't have the urge to have kids. And what it doesn't mean, also, you said, you love pets, as do I have a cat who gets all of my maternal urges and instincts, and I adore this cat more than anything. Like, I'm obsessed with him, Johnny. And there's also this narrative saying that, well, if you don't want kids, then you hate kids, or you haven't got a maternal bone in your body. But it's not true, because we can be maternal in other ways. Like, I am so maternal towards my nephews and my niece, and to my cat. So, but it's just so interesting how a certain type of guy and woman thinks that every single woman is here to have babies, and if you don't have babies, then there's something wrong with you. um Jordan, one last question is that before I ask you the final thing, is there anything else that you want to share with the single women listening, or some of the not single women listening to this podcast right now? Anything else that you wanted to share at all that I haven't
I think if
asked?
there's anything that I haven't said already, but I would honestly just reinforce the idea that if you're single and wanting a relationship, like I said, do not ever settle for anything less than what you want. Never, ever, ever even think about lowering your standards. Keep them. And like I said, work on yourself, make yourself the best version of you. And if you're in a relationship, remember that the same thing applies. Still be the best version of you. And if you are unhappy in your relationship, as I know a lot of people sadly are, it's never too late to leave. And being single is not the worst thing in the world. I feel like so many people are terrified of being single, and they're like, what am I going to do if I leave? That's the end of my life. It is not the end of your life. It is one of the best things in the world. And we need to all look at each other and be like, yes, I am free. I am happy. And just be you, be happy, don't settle, be awesome.
Love it. Jordan, what's next for you? What do you see as your kind of next plan, your next mission?
Well, I've just written a book. So I'm currently querying agents, which is very fun.
Oh my gosh, tell us about the book, if you don't mind.
Of course. I love it. So basically it's a
Is it
magical.
fiction?
It is fiction, yes. I've always wanted to write a fiction book ever since I was a child. I've been writing books like my whole life, but this is the
Wow.
first one where I'm like, yeah, it's actually really good. So it is an adult magical realism romance novel set in 1950s London, and it's about a girl who inherits an enchanted library that can cure its patrons' emotional traumas.
Oh my
And
God.
underneath all that, there's like some evil organization who's coming for the power, and we've got like a really nice romance subplot as well. So I think it's really fun. And yeah, I've been trying to find an agent currently. That's my current mission, who will hopefully take it on, because it has been my dream, my lifelong dream, to write a book. And yeah, that's my whole life at the moment. It's just the book.
Oh my gosh, seriously, all the best with that. If you ever want to come back on this podcast to talk about the book, once you find a publisher, an agent and a publisher, then you are more than welcome. It sounds like a super interesting story. So, how fabulous. I mean, seriously, all the best with it. I wish you all the luck in the world. And I'm damn sure that you will get an agent and a publisher. I have no doubt. It's just a question of time and persistence, isn't it? And you already know what it's like to be persistent and resilient and keep going and going until it happens.
Yeah.
How can people find you, follow you, all of the things? Tell them everything that they need to know.
So you can find me on pretty much every social platform at Hello Miss Jordan. I have a few side accounts. You can find those in my Linktree bio. I'm Jordan Rose Author for my writing account. And my website is www.hellomissjordan.com. I don't really write on there anymore, but you might want to look at some of those cringe posts I was mentioning earlier.
Thank you so much for your time. Honestly, I've really, really loved talking to you. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I'm so grateful that you agreed to come on. So thank you for your time, and sending you lots and lots of love.
No, thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure, and it's been so wonderful to talk to you.
You're so welcome, love.